Hey brothers, welcome. JK Amazy here, founder and head coach at pornreboot.com, and today I'm going to be talking about how porn affects your brain and how it makes you stupid. Now, stupid might be a hard word, but let me ask you this question. Have you ever wondered if your addiction with pornography is affecting your focus, your memory, your ability to prioritize? When I say memory, I especially mean your short-term memory. Have you ever wondered if it's affected your cognition, your ability to understand things? And have you also looked at yourself and thought, you know what? I'm a pretty introspective person. I understand a lot of concepts, but I feel stupid. How can I feel stupid when I am aware that this person is speaking about a complex topic, which I am fully able to understand if I applied myself to it? I can't apply myself to it, and as a result, I feel stupid, and I feel guilty of being stupid. I hope I didn't get too deep into that and confuse you. Some of you may get what I'm talking about. Let me share a story. Up till the age of 25, there's no better way that I can explain it. I was pretty stupid. I made a lot of bad decisions, and I thought that it was because I had ADD, that it was because of some issue or the other. And the truth is, that played a role, but it didn't explain the extraordinarily stupid decisions that I was making in my life. Decisions which are still affecting me till today. I'm still paying the price for them. See, I'll share something with you. Many guys may not know this, but I actually didn't become articulate, and I still don't think I'm the most articulate person out there. I didn't become articulate till I was 31 years old, and I'm 36 years old. So that wasn't too long ago. So I only started putting together podcasts and YouTube videos when I learned how to actually put thoughts and ideas together and then express them in a way that made sense. And I still think I fucked that up now and again because I was a late bloomer in this area of my life. But here is what I discovered. Here is why that happened, and here is the connection to pornography. If you feel that way, this is going to be helpful to you. See, from the ages of 18 to 25 years old, we have not fully developed our brain. We're still missing a lot of cognitive processes, particularly in the part of our brain called the prefrontal cortex. Now, the prefrontal cortex is part of a large part of your brain called the neocortex, and I've spoken about this in the past. A brief summary is that there's a part of your brain called the neocortex, and there's a part of your brain close to the base of your neck which is called the midbrain or the reptilian brain, and that part of your brain is in charge of survival. It takes care of all your survival mechanisms: procreate, fight, run away from danger, eat, shit, all those basic processes. It all started there, and then we evolved the other parts of our brain. So the prefrontal cortex in particular is part of the prefrontal lobe of the brain. It's involved in functions such as prioritizing, planning, memory, attention. And when it comes to attention, I mean deciding what you're going to focus your attention on for a long period of time. And if you find yourself always struggling with that, like, what should I do first? What should I do second? Oh, no, you know what? I'm not doing the right thing now. I need to do something else. It's so easy for somebody to say, like, well, you have ADD, you have ADHD. See, the thing about the prefrontal cortex is that it doesn't fully develop till you're in your mid to late 20s. And that means that it isn't until your mid to late 20s that you're able to make mature decisions when it comes to prioritizing things and when it comes to doing things like remembering the way or the order in which certain processes work or creating that order for yourself. Actually, a lot of industries know about this. This is actually one of the reasons why the car rental industry doesn't rent cars to men who are below the age of 25. And years ago, in our team at Porn Reboot, we started realizing that for our intensive program, our highest level of coaching, the men who are under the age of 25 didn't seem able to keep up with men who were over the age of 30. And I kept wondering, what is going on with these guys? And then we realized that guys who were under the age of 25, and a lot of guys over the age of 25 who were not 30 yet, were just struggling with the way our program was designed. They couldn't keep up because they hadn't fully developed the things they needed in their prefrontal cortex to focus attention on certain modules and certain processes. They just didn't have a frame of reference for those things. But the men who were over the age of 30, even though they were struggling with their prefrontal cortex, it was developed to a certain extent. And so they were able to grasp concepts, some quicker or slower than others. I'm not saying that all like guys who are under the age of 25 are stupid. It doesn't mean that. There are a lot of men under the age of 25 who these days have accomplished great things. They are a lot of the most successful entrepreneurs in today's world are under the age of 25. There's a lot of innovation that's taking place with men who are under the age of 25. But that doesn't mean that those men are mature. I know this because I've worked with a lot of them in my practice. I've worked with a lot of very successful men in their 20s who still struggle when it comes to relationships, who still make immature decisions when it comes to hiring, working with people. Decisions about their personal life as well are not perfect. And that's okay. I was like that in my 20s. And your 20s are actually a time for you to fuck up. You're supposed to fail in your 20s. In fact, it is not unusual for you to be unhappy in your 20s. I'm going to say that again. It is not unusual for you to be unhappy in your 20s. In fact, the more forward focused you are, the more interested you are in improving your life in your 20s, the more unhappy you're going to be. And the less you give a shit about improving your life in your 20s, the happier you're going to be. But what's the trade-off? The trade-off is once you get into your 30s and your 40s, chances are you're going to be completely unhappy. But a lot of men who are unhappy in their 20s, this is happening because of a biological process, because they simply haven't developed their prefrontal cortex and they don't have the relevant experience to make sense of different things happening in their life. So you're learning a lot and you should be pushing yourself in your 20s because you probably have way more years, decades ahead of you where your brain is just not going to be responding as quickly as it is in your 20s. But I rambled on that. Back to what I was talking about with the prefrontal cortex and pornography. When you're in your early 20s and sometimes to your mid 20s and late 20s, your emotions and your impulses form the primary driver for making plans. And the way you make decisions are mostly based on impulses and emotions, as opposed to rationalizing, strategizing, and actually taking time to think of long-term consequences of the things that you're going to do. And that's the reason why a lot of decisions that you make lead to pain. Now, when you struggle with porn addiction or an out-of-control sexual behavior, what happens is you don't develop enough neural connections in your prefrontal cortex. And when your addiction began in your late teens through your 20s, it slows down the development of your prefrontal cortex. And so you find yourself in your 30s and your 40s and even beyond, still making major decisions in your life based on impulse and emotions. And you realize that when you stay off pornography for a short period of time, you're able to think a lot clearer. And that's because our brains are amazing. They're neuroplastic, they're capable of changing. And once you stay off something, it's going to start healing itself. Your body knows what's best for you. When you start creating those healthy neural pathways in your prefrontal cortex, and what happens is you start being able to plan, prioritize, your memory becomes better, you start seeing the consequences of certain actions. But going through this process is not easy because, as you know, it's quite challenging to stay off pornography and rewire your brain. That's why it's important to be in a community with experienced people where you can be advised about what's happening when you're going through withdrawal symptoms. Because you're still going to be emotional, you're still going to be impulsive, and that without having people to guide you and say, hey, this is what's happening, here's why it's happening, and you're going to get to a point where you're going to understand what we're saying today. You don't get it now, but trust in the system because you will get to the place where you understand what's happening. Getting you to that point where your brain has rewired enough, where you have gained some control over your behavior so that you can start planning better, you can start prioritizing better, you can start seeing the consequences of your actions. It's really what the porn reboot system is about. Now, all these things that the prefrontal cortex does is called executive function, the ability to prioritize, plan, put attention to certain things, look forward into the future and predict the consequences of your action. All those things fall under the category of executive function. And porn addicts have weak executive function. If you're in your 30s and your 40s and you find yourself struggling, or you've always been struggling to make it, and you've looked into other modalities, you've spoken to doctors, you've watched videos, you've read books, and you're just like, yeah, something must have happened to me in my childhood. I'm not discounting those things. I think you should still look into them. But if you haven't quit porn, brother, there's a very high possibility that this is the one addiction that's holding you back in this area of your life. And I highly recommend that you take some steps to start getting pornography and your out of control sexual behavior under control in your life. And one of the big things that really kind of holds men back when they start trying to quit pornography is what we call hypofrontality. And that is when you experience weakened impulse control and weakened willpower in the frontal lobes of your brain. This is a direct result of your porn addiction, or any addiction in fact. And this is one of the reasons why I tell men over and over again that you cannot use willpower to quit your out of control behavior, because you simply don't have that capability. There's a time for willpower. Your willpower will work for you months down the line. But to get started, it's not as if some guys go like, oh, well, I'm weak-willed. You are weak-willed, because the part of your brain that has everything to do with controlling your willpower has been ironically weakened by this out of control sexual behavior. So it's important for you to have a system, to have support in place when you don't have willpower, to kind of guide you along to gain control till you actually have that willpower. Okay? Brothers, I could go on and on about this topic, but there are a bunch of free, easy ways to learn more about it. One of those ways, brothers, is to join our free Facebook group, the Porn Reboot group. There's a link to join in the description below this video. Another way is to pick up a free copy of my ebook. It's called Confessions of a Porn Addict, 7 Secrets of Porn-Free Men, and it gives you a brief overview of the entire Porn Reboot system. And the next way is, if you feel like you're done with this behavior, if you're like, JK, this is screwing up my life, I've been trying to do this on my own and I'm not making any progress, I don't know what's gonna happen in the future because I've just never made it to up to 3 months, or I've never made it up to a year. Or if you're at a point where you're just like, listen, I just need somebody to guide me. I need somebody who's been there to take me step by step all the way to a place where I can control this behavior by myself, then you may be a good fit for one of our group coaching programs. We have 2 programs. One of them is called the Implementation Program. Another one is called the Intensive Program. I want to make one thing very clear. We do not accept men based on the money you have in your wallet. The biggest thing about our group is commitment. This is a recovery group. It is not some video course that you hop into and just watch a bunch of videos. There's a lot of interaction. I'm involved in it. There is a community involved, and you have to not only fit into the community, but you also have to be committed to go all the way, because the people in these communities are going to be your brothers. They are committed as well. So that's going to be one of the first qualities that we're looking for. So to find out if you're a good fit for either of our programs, there's a link in the description to fill out a short survey, get on a call with me or one of my qualified team members, and we'll find out if you're a good fit for the program. I'm JK, your brother in this struggle. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch this video. If you enjoyed it, please make sure you subscribe. I release 4 videos a week consistently. I'll speak to you later on in the week.